Uh, when you have a set of numbers, okay, people are analyzing statistics, which people do all the time. It is often desired to represent an entire set of numbers with one value. Those values are called measures of center because they kind of measure the center of all of the numbers, sort of. And there are three different ways to do that: mean, median, and mode. These should sound familiar to you from last year, maybe even in 5th grade. Okay? Somebody tell me something about any of these three things. Just pick one.
Oh, mean is when you add all the numbers then divide it.
Okay, so the mean is the mean one, the difficult one to calculate. That's how you remember that. Mean is the one that is mean to calculate. Okay? It is when you add up all the numbers and you divide by how many there are. What is the common word that we use for the mean of a set of numbers? Most people don't say, oh, yeah, what's your batting mean? Or what's the mean number of average? Very good, Yesenia. Mean is average, okay? That's the normal or the most common word that we use for mean. It's the same as the average, okay? So your grade mean, you add up all of your grades and you divide by how many grades you have, right? And that gives you your average or your mean. All right, how about another one? Someone from home, raise your hand. Oh, Aron's raising his hand. He's not home.
The median.
The median. What is the median?
It is when you sort them from least to greatest and the middle number.
Yeah, so the median is the middle number. The middle number. Okay, it's the middle number when you put all of the numbers in order from least to greatest. You figure out which one's in the middle. We'll go over how to do each of these in a second. Okay, we'll review how to do each of them. Okay, so either of these could be a good measure of the middle of a bunch of numbers. It depends on what kind of numbers they are, and we're not going to go into that part about which one is the best thing to use. Okay, what the last one is the mode. The mode. Tori has her hand up again, so I'll let her answer that one. Okay, what's the mode, Tori? Okay, it's the number in the set or numbers, and you can have more than one, that occur the most often. The number that shows up the most often, okay? In most things that you do, most applications, the mode is not the best measurement of the middle of the group of numbers, okay? It's really only when a lot of numbers repeat that you kind of use the mode, but it's something that is important to know. Okay, so mean, median, and mode, and these notes are all out of the 6th grade book, are measures of center, they're called. They're one number to represent the whole group. The mean, add up all the numbers, divide by how many there are. The median, put them in order, and it's the middle number if they're all in order. The mode is the one that occurs the most often. It could be more than one. You can also have no mode. No numbers repeat, then the set of numbers has no mode. Now, the other thing that you measure when you are looking at a set of numbers is how much variation there is, how far apart all the numbers are. Not measuring the center, but just measuring kind of like the spread of things. Okay, those are called measures of variation. And I don't know if you did these last year. Did you remember doing quartiles and interquartile range last year?
We did quartiles, but not interquartiles.
Yeah, so probably, and if you did, it was right at the end of the year, and it was probably while you were at home, and some people weren't paying attention. Okay, this topic is one that sort of falls off a lot of times during the school year. Okay, range, however, and these are a little bit complicated to calculate. We're not going to talk about these right now. We might get to them in the statistics unit at the end of the year, but the range is one that is fairly common. Okay, the range of a set of numbers is the difference between the greatest and the least numbers, okay? So mean, median, mode, and range are typically the 4 topics that you will see questions asked about. And for sure, on the math test next week, on Thursday, you're gonna do the math test. I guarantee you're gonna have questions on both, on these things, mean, median, mode, and range. So it's good that we're going over it now to kind of remind you of what those mean. All right, so this is 6th grade stuff. So what makes this 7th grade stuff? Yeah, if I put negative numbers in the data set, that means that you're going to have to add negative numbers, divide negative numbers, subtract negative numbers, put negative numbers in order. This seems like all good things to practice when you're working on how to use positive and negative numbers. So that's why we're going to do mean, median, mode, and range for a set of numbers that includes negative numbers. All right. So in these problems, you are given a set of numbers, and then you'd be asked to find any of these four things: mean, median, mode, or range. Okay. So we'll go through how to do each one together. To find the median, some people forget that you have to put them in order, and we'll just find the middle number out of this group the way they're written now. That's not the middle. They have to be put in order from least to greatest. So that means if there's negative numbers in there, you have to remember that negative numbers, right, their absolute value, the bigger the value, the further to the left or the less the number is. Negative 12 is smaller than negative 7. Just like if you look on the number line up here, right? So the smallest number of your group is going to be the negative number with the largest absolute value, the largest value. So it's negative 12, then negative 7, then negative 3, negative 2 as you get closer to 0. All the negatives are gone, then you do the positive numbers in order. So I've listed, you have to list the numbers in order to do the median. You can't do it without a piece of paper. Unless there's only a couple of numbers. But if there's anywhere more than 5 numbers, you really can't do the median without a piece of paper. Because it's really hard to put these in your head and think about them without writing them down. Okay? What is the trick to find the median of this set of numbers once they are in order? Oh, Tori remembers. What?
You cross off both ends.
Correct. Okay, so you start crossing out the numbers from the two ends. So we cross out this number and this number. Cross that one out and that one. Okay, that takes out the last two. Then we cross out that one and that one. And we cross out the next one and we work to the inside until if you get one number at the end, that's the median. If there's 2 numbers left at the end, it's the middle of these 2 numbers. And the way to find the middle of these 2 numbers, sometimes you can do it in your head. Okay, if it was like 8 and 10, you would just in your head say, oh, the middle of 8 and 10 is 9. Okay, but if they're not easy to figure out, the middle of these 2 numbers, then what do you have to do? How do you figure out the middle of these 2 numbers? It's also the average of these 2 numbers.
Yeah, subtract the level one.
Do not, nope, not subtract.
Divide.
You do have to divide, but first you have to add.
Yeah.
Add them together and then divide by 2. Okay, so to find the middle, right? If the middle is 2 numbers, then you have to divide, you add the 2 numbers and divide by 2. So in this problem, that requires you to add -2 plus 8, which is 6. Right? So 6, and then divide that 6 divided by 2. Sometimes this number might come out to be negative. The middle of the set of numbers could be a negative number, then you're dividing negative divided by positive. That's why this is good practice here in this unit of positive and negative numbers, okay? So the median of this set of numbers, is 3. A lot of times people will write it here like that. Oops. Except I'm going to write it in blue if I can get my pens to work. Come on, pens! Ah! Just don't get why it does some things and it doesn't do other things. Really, I wish I could figure it out. Someday I'll troubleshoot this when I'm done with the lesson. Okay. So that's the median. When are you going to not have to do this? When will this not be required? How can you look at the list of numbers and not without really doing any other work figure out if you're going to have to do this, find the middle of two numbers at the end.
If there's an odd amount of numbers in the list.
Who said that?
Rachel.
Yes, Rachel. If there's an odd number of numbers, then you will have one left in the middle. If there's an odd number of data points. Okay, if there's an even number of data points, you're going to end up with two in the middle. Now, sometimes they'll be the same number, then you don't have to calculate anything. That happens sometimes, right? Okay, that's the median. Find the mean. Now, first off, it's helpful to do, if you have to do all of them, it's helpful to do the median first. Putting all the numbers in order makes the other steps much easier. Okay, so if you have to find all four, and typically it'll say find the mean, median, mode, and range. I don't know why, that's just the order that they're typically given in. Do the median first. Put the numbers in order because it'll make it easier to do the other parts. To find the mean, I have to add up all of the numbers and divide by how many there are. So add up all of the numbers and divide by how many there are. So if the numbers are ordered like this, that puts all of your negative numbers first and all of your positive numbers next. And it's way easier if you're going to add up a bunch. You don't want to go up here and do -7 plus 8. You got to subtract. That's 1. Then 1 plus -12 and subtract, and you get -11. And then add and subtract. Right? If you don't do them this way, the arithmetic is much more difficult, and you have no calculators for these. Right? You're not supposed to use a calculator for these problems that I'm giving you here, because the numbers are all relatively small. So what's the easiest way to add up these 8 numbers? Add up all the negative numbers, add up all the positive numbers, that's all additions, and then just add the last two, the positive and the negative totals, right? So 12 plus 7 plus 3 plus 2, I always look for things that add up to 10 when I do sets of numbers like this. 7 and 3 is 10, so that's 22, 24. That's how I do it in my head. Everyone has different strategies, okay? Then for the positive number, so it's -24 plus 8 plus 9, 17, 27 plus 3 is 30, 40. Okay, you can do it on paper if you have to, but this comes out to -24 plus 40 over 8 divided by 8. So -24 plus 40, these are different signs, so I subtract them. I get 16, positive 16. So my answer, the median, 16 divided by 8 is 2. The mean of this set of numbers is 2. The average. Putting the numbers in order like this makes it instantly easy to find the mode, because they'll be the numbers that are right next to each other. If you have more than one of the same number, they'll be right next to each other. What is the mode for this set of numbers? None. There is no mode, which is very common, right? Especially if you only have a few numbers. Pretty common to not have a mode. You can have more than one. If there was 2 3s and 2 5s, then it would be 3 and 5. They would both be the mode of this set of numbers.
If there was only one of each, it would be all numbers.
It's all of them, so we just say none. So it's really none of them. None of them occurs more than the others, right? That's what the mode is. Okay, and finally, the range. The range is the difference between the largest and smallest number. So again, when you put them in order, that sets you up to find the range. So 13 and -12 are the largest and smallest numbers. And what am I going to do with those two numbers to find the range? Subtract, because the difference between those numbers means I need to subtract them. And so now here we are with a subtraction that requires positive and negative numbers. Man, these problems require you to do all these different operations with positive and negative numbers. 13 minus -12, how do I do that?
Well, my mom taught me that if there's 2 minuses next to each other, it's a plus.
We talked about that trick when we learned subtraction. two minuses next to each other is plus because we do same, change, change. Right? So this minus negative 12 is the same as plus positive 12. Okay? So 13 plus positive 12 gives me a range of 25. So the difference from the smallest number to the largest number, and if they're negative and positive like this, you're always going to add them together. 12 units to get to 0 and 13 units to get to 13. 12 plus 13 is going to be your range, 25. So that is a review of how to do mean, median, mode, and range with positive and negative numbers.